Alright, let's start skipping again. Alright, you're back from New Terra, are you? What are we doing? Confident or cautious this time? Okay, we're letting you bring it up when he's ready. Sorry, I was going through, I'm like, where am I on the walkthrough? Well, we got nice romantic music, so that's a good sign. I wanted to ask him about everything. About the situation on New Terra, about Veneta, about the meetings, if the council was planning to punish him. But he'd had a long day, and I didn't want to force him to talk about it if he didn't want to, or wasn't ready. So instead I focused on making his tea. When I finished and carried the cup past him and towards the sofa, I realized he was watching me with what seemed like intense curiosity. No, in fact, there was something like confusion in his expression. What? Impressed by the marked improvement in my tea-making skills? You let out a soft chuckle and followed me to the sofa, taking my hand to draw me closer after I set the cup down.
No, that's not it at all. I am certain you are curious about everything that has happened, and yet you're not asking about it. I was trying to discern why. Is it possible you wish to give me space to discuss it when I wish to bring it up? That's the conclusion I came to.
It is possible. In fact, it's so possible one might even say that's the actual reason I didn't bring it up. He hugged me tenderly, pressing his lips to the side of my head as a quiet sigh escaped him. Aw, I wish I had done this the first time. I was all up in my feels about like, well, maybe he would appreciate someone asking about it. I mean, it worked out in the end, but still.
Your consideration is noted, but you are allowed to ask, given that it somewhat involves you.
I pulled away, reaching to brush his hair from his eyes. My hand lingered affectionately on his cheek. Being allowed to ask isn't the same as it being the considerate thing to do. I can only imagine how tired you are. I don't know if the council meetings were draining or if you just didn't sleep on the station, but I'm worried. I'll leave it at that. Yu's expression softened, and he leaned forward to brush his lips against mine once, then again, before resting his head against me.
As usual, your understanding is appreciated. I am indeed exhausted. Today's meetings were frustrating, despite how clearly I stated I do not, to use Kale's words, give a damn what the council thinks. And my sleep routine has been off for some time. I don't believe I have rested well for several weeks.
He pulled me down with him as he finally sat, fingers tangling with mine.
Magnus, at the very least, had the wherewithal to give me an advance warning of the situation. For what little it helped.
Are we back around to you? Yeah, do you explaining how it went? Okay. That was cute. I really liked that alternate scene, though.
Some of them believe Endgame is, at my insistence, showing favoritism to Antrim by solving their problem first. Of course, it isn't a matter of their problem. Antrim's problem is everyone's problem, so it is getting a high level of attention at the moment. It isn't as if the general nanite situation doesn't have a team assigned to it, but my repeated trips to the station have given the impression we are focusing our efforts elsewhere. It doesn't help that my connection to Antrim is known, as is my distaste for Ventus and Solemn. But their distrust of my motives does not change the fact that the nanite surge virus is an emergency, and the general nanite resistance situation is not. Regardless, the citizens of Solemn are restless, and the leadership is under pressure to solve all their problems now. I fear violence may break out again soon.
I can understand their frustration, but there are no easy or fast solutions in a situation like this.
No, merely people demanding them.
I feel like I've made the entire situation worse.
No, it's very possible that, as you wished, You have opened an avenue for a much quicker resolution.
Are we... Okay, and then we're back around again. And I coaxed him into a shoulder massage later on, citing all the medical benefits of skinship and making him laugh. Aw, good job, girl. He always seemed to find it hilarious when I used his own strategy against him. It's very charming. The council sent him a long message with a threat of consequences before bed. Blah. Blah, I say. He stayed over again. Nice. But apparently he was noisy enough when leaving that it woke Vaughn up, so now we were discussing it during training. Because she didn't get the opportunity earlier. A high weight limit. Okay. Really? I mean, not that I mind, but they'd use Espers for that?
Hey, sometimes we're more efficient than maintenance bots. Definitely smarter. Some of us, anyway.
I had not considered the possibility of being sent in as construction equipment. Okay, not yet.
If Dr. Sasaki has found a breakthrough, then given all the other developments, it is possible they will need to rapidly repair Veneta for habitation. And if that happens, then Vaughn is correct about adept telekinetics being sent to supplement the rehabilitation work.
He seemed to think he'd found the solution.
He did seem in lighter spirits when I returned him to New Terra earlier today. Yeah, that was before we learned the Triad has inserted themselves into the situation again. Regardless if the medical side of things stabilizes, the Triad is always going to mess things up when they can. Hopefully the council tells them to fuck right off. Veneta's our territory.
Well said, Caleb. It was frustrating the situation had leaked to them already. Okay, and we're back.
That said, we'll also be informing the Nomos central government of all this soon. They have been aware of Veneta for some time, as they've been supplying some of its necessities.
Oh! I hadn't really considered supply issues. That made sense, though. I was curious what they thought about all the previous negotiations then, given New Terra had been trying to reach out to them about settling in the abandoned cities.
But a community of a few hundred people is different from one of thousands, millions. They'll have some requirements now that it's not just Endgame involved in a tiny community of refugees in the wastes.
What sort of requirements? Are we back? Not yet.
A permanent Endgame presence, for one. But that won't be too difficult to set up, since the council wants that anyway. And it could open other doors, such as to rehabilitate and use one of the other domes in the complex for Endgame's use. The Triad will hate that, but who cares? Still, there will need to be new agreements drawn up regarding the issue. The Nomos have also seen a slight increase in their F-class Esper population, so having resources near them could present another opportunity. I don't suspect any major problems from them. Given all of that is a nasty soup of chaos and ongoing development, I have taken the opportunity to come up with a possible outline of resettlement in my spare time.
Okay. And we're back to your plan. Like I said, things feel like they're going too smoothly, that's all. Okay, she still has the bad feeling. I wouldn't say it's reluctance as much as caution. When things seem like they're all going how I want, it makes me want to step back and survey the situation objectively. Just to make sure there aren't any issues I'm not seeing. For instance, Heidi getting cold feet about the actual promotion process. You and I both know it's dangerous. She may change her mind, and I'm not going to push her into it if she's not ready or isn't up for the risk.
Well, that's certainly kind of you. I no longer have the capacity to... Well, never mind.
You and I both know that's not true, Magnus. I know you like to think it is, but it's not.
For now, I have no further updates for you.
Alright. Updates are done. Chat with Heidi's done. Is this Caleb? Yep, it's Caleb. And who was I to deny him the, to use his words, ass-kicking he deserved? Though, even Ari noted he seemed to enjoy it. Weirdly. Very strange. I was getting a decent grasp on Rook abilities, but of course Caleb was seasoned, so it wasn't as easy as I hoped to make him regret teasing me. I was glad Ari came to my rescue. That's my night. Until we move to the next thing. Because then we're back to weights and shields. Okay, are we doing shield still? We're doing shield still, okay. Good to know. We're gonna need that for later, I guess. But there was no way I would be able to keep those weights in the air while moving them and also focusing on the shield. I halted their movement, still keeping them several feet off the ground, but static. Vaughn had a little buzzer that she'd been setting off every single time I stopped moving them, but I ignored it and focused on the shield situation anyway. The weights trembled, faltering in the air as Caleb slammed his heel into a weak point I'd just reinforced. A bead of sweat rolled down my forehead and the shield nearly faltered again, but held. And finally, Vaughn gave the signal to end the exercise. Oh yeah, this is all different. Okay, cool. She managed to hold the weights aloft that time. That's good. I lowered the shield right away and fell to the ground, trying my best to lower the 3 weights at the same time. I mostly managed. Ugh! I flopped back on the mat, staring at the ceiling. This sucks.
Looks like you were struggling there at the end, Morgan.
No kidding. My shield was starting to crack, so I had to focus on reinforcing it.
So you gave up on the movement of the weights in favor of the shield?
Seemed like in an actual fight that would be the right choice.
I concur. It was a wise choice to reinforce the shield. Not just because, in an actual fight, it would be better to protect yourself in most situations, but also because having a shield destroyed can cause a mental rebound that results in fatigue and other symptoms.
Yeah, I remember the headache from the last time we tried this.
Any situation where you can reinforce the shield or even choose to lower it rather than having it shatter is preferable. Exactly. Don't forget that in a real fight, there may be options that allow you to deal with whatever is trying to break your shield. I mean, not that I'd recommend it here, but if someone is actually trying to hurt you, you could fling one of those weights at them to get them off your back. Yeah. Please don't throw a 125 kilogram weight at me.
Okay, is this... Nope, still different. Cool.
Vaughn is right. In a training situation, those sorts of opportunities don't always present themselves. But it is wise to keep yourself aware of ways to lighten the load. Regardless, your improvement is still impressive. Though we don't have an accurate comparison since we've never worked with an adult at your level who also had no ability to control Psi. Children who are learning do not go from barely able to lift a 125 kilogram weight 1 week to lifting 3 of them while maintaining a shield and moving them in a complex pattern the next.
Okay, now we're back. Girl's pretty strong. It was neat that they're like, you know, lowering the shield is also an option because that'll actually hurt less than them shattering it and breaking through anyway because you're going to get the mental rebound. So that's cool. I was fighting to stay calm as I listened to Magnus, to not jump up and demand to know if YUU was alright. Magnus didn't know that either. I needed to just keep my cool, but it was so hard.
So what are they demanding from us? These bastards didn't go find you to slap him on the wrist or yell at him. He's a bargaining chip for something, isn't he?
They haven't reached out yet, so we don't know. Based on the misinformation spreading in Solemn, it seems they believe this is some kind of conspiracy. That YUU has been helping only Antrim due to personal bias, and that we intend to leave the others to rot.
Okay. She was a little more emotional about YUU being trapped, understandably. For a moment I stood there looking at it. Lost. Worried. Her armor. How did it come to this? We knew the situation there was bad, but I couldn't have expected this in a million years. Logically, I knew that anyone hoping to negotiate with Endgame wouldn't harm its members. but every terrible outcome was flying through my mind. How could the absolute worst-case scenario happen? How had no one seen this? I could beat myself up for it, but I wasn't an expert at precognition. Endgame had a literal team of bishops who were supposed to keep their eyes on things like this. How could they not see something like this? Was this part of Magnus's plan too, somehow? I didn't think so, but I couldn't help but question it. Finally, at a loss, I sank to the floor, still holding my uniform. I couldn't cry. I couldn't let myself break down or panic, but I wasn't like everyone else. I wasn't trained for this kind of thing. I hadn't been through these things 100 times. How was I supposed to stay calm? My heart was hammering so hard against my chest it felt like it would burst out. It was hard to breathe, and I could do nothing but grip my uniform tight in my hands, trying to draw in shaking breath after shaking breath as I coaxed myself into some semblance of composure. Please be okay. Please be okay. There was no time to let myself keep panicking, though. I had to get ready. So after a moment, still shaking, I managed to get to my feet so I could put this uniform on. I kept telling myself to calm down because I wasn't good to anyone if I was a complete emotional mess. It wasn't easy. But I managed to get the slick body armor on. Correctly, I thought. It felt okay, anyway. Heading back into my living room, I wondered what I was supposed to do or where I was supposed to go next. Surely I wasn't supposed to just wait here until I was called. Maybe I should message Caleb and ask. Before I could even open my message center, I got a notification from him telling me to get to the deployment room. A new development, perhaps? Okay, and then Ari walked me. And we're not analytical this time, so we're getting a new choice, which is the stubborn one. I'm okay. Don't worry about me.
I'm going to worry about you as much as I want, and you can't stop me. Especially when that sorry excuse for bravado is so paper-thin.
I glared at him, and I thought Vaughn was going to say something, but he cut her off before she could.
It's much better for everyone if you're honest about where you are mentally.
I know that. And I'm not striving for bravado, Caleb. I'm freaked out and trying to hold myself together, yes. That doesn't mean I'm not also okay. Or that I won't be okay. I am aware of the gravity of the situation, Caleb. So all I can do is just stay focused and push off going to pieces until later when everything is resolved. I'm okay because I have to be. That's how everyone is, right?
Alright. Fair enough, but... Look, just let us know if you reach a point you aren't okay. We'll leave you behind if we have to, whether or not the council likes it.
No! I'm going with you! I took a breath, trying to keep my voice steady. Look, I understand the concern, but I'm not staying behind. This is the one time I can't pretend I'm not involved in this.
Sometimes when we're more emotionally connected with things, it's the one time we should stay out of it.
You're as emotionally connected as I am. I know you have to be worried about him too, and you aren't staying behind. Besides, like it or not, no one can replace me in this mission.
Leone, you've been training for about 5 minutes compared to the rest of us. You're not irreplaceable just because you're a queen rank. I beg to differ. Given the nanite suppression issues on Nutera, which will diminish your abilities and Odette's, as well as any other N-class Esper, Morgan, as an F-class queen, is irreplaceable. I understand your concerns, Caleb, but this is Morgan's duty as much as it is ours, and it's not the time for this discussion. I don't need to remind you that it's not your call whether Morgan stays. If it's not up to Magnus, then it will, logically, be up to me, and whether I choose to transport her.
Damn, Ari!
If she wishes to go on this mission, she will go with us.
Alright, Ari swooping in at the end to be like, I'm gonna steal your heart back real quick over here. I appreciate you, man. Thank you, Ari.
However, Morgan, Caleb also is correct that you cannot always brute force your way through emotional distress, particularly as an F class.
He has experience with this, so listen.
And it would be beneficial if we are aware in advance that you are struggling to
Keep my temper right now because the two of you won't stop questioning me?
That is not what I was going to say, no. Nevertheless, I suppose it also is useful information.
I love it. He paused, looking to the side, eyebrow raising. And a split second later, he was gone. Well, isn't that just convenient timing?
It's like, excuse me, I must go see Magnus right away.
We had to deal with this situation first. One person fired a shot from their weapon before the rest of us could act, at Ari and Odette. His shield deflected it with no problems. Okay, so she didn't take the weapons out of their hands this time, it doesn't seem like. This is probably going to be different, yeah. I lowered mine just enough for Caleb to jump into action. He was across the room and taking that guy out with a kick that sent him back against the wall with a heavy thump. Bishop on the left, red hair. I told Ari since no one else would be able to tell which was which. He didn't respond, but before the bishop could attack anyone, he teleported directly to them and took them down with a brutal elbow to the face. Odette was exchanging fire, for lack of a better word, but her cybursts were precise, efficient, and not as loose and overpowered as mine. They clearly hadn't been prepared for us, and between the three of them, it was over in seconds. I felt bad that I hadn't contributed much, but better to leave it to the experts and not get in the way. Okay. Good, great.
Don't worry about attacking, just shielding. That's your job right now.
I understand. No ripping weapons out because I didn't do it the first time. Almost on instinct, I wrapped my sai around their weapons, ripping them away to disarm them. One attempted to fire, but I wrenched the weapon from him with sai before they could, then followed suit with the others before anyone could react, so she did wrench the weapons. I flung them away, far out of reach. Okay. And are we shielding? We're shielding again. Makes sense. I think that's where the bad ending is when we don't shield, so. He pulled me to him and kissed my forehead softly.
Please, be careful.
As much as I can. I promise. And that was all the time we had in the world. So, she's recovering. And this is it. Alright, I think we made it to the sweet ending, guys. 10 days later. I tucked away the last of my personal items in the luggage unfolded on my bed and took stock of everything one last time before I snapped it shut. I'm gonna see if Yuu's still coming with us or not. I'm gonna be surprised if he does. Hopefully I wasn't forgetting anything. I mean, I probably wasn't. My last trip to Veneta had been 2 days, but I'd be gone for a few weeks this time. Things were moving fast, and this was potentially a precursor to a much longer stay. For the time being, though, only a few weeks. It had been chaotic of late, to say the least, but with the Triad kicked out of all talks regarding Veneta and its future, things were going at a breakneck pace. And my role wasn't being reduced, as I'd hoped. Not really, but it was being altered for the time being, anyway. The Council was still reluctant to entertain the idea of moving me from the First Guard, a point of frustration for me, but they were keeping me to mediation and not peacekeeping on New Terra. Interesting, they were not concerned about her health this time around. They're like, whatever. And it needed peacekeeping because things hadn't quite settled down there. So I wasn't going to complain about going to Veneta instead. Hey, you're here.
If you are finished with packing, perhaps it is time for dinner.
Sure. It'll be the last one we have together for a while, so we should make it count.
Indeed. Hence, I intended to suggest we visit a cafe I enjoy rather than stay at Cor Solaris.
Trying to make a good memory?
I do not believe we will be separated long enough to need a good memory to cling to. But it did feel apropos to leave the grounds for a while, since we will be unable to do so together for some time.
All right. I'll be ready in a few minutes. Yeah, he's not coming. I'll miss this while I'm in Veneta. It's so much quieter there. Not that I've been able to see much of it. The last time I was busy, and before that...
As I recall, you still managed to escape your hospital room during your first stay, which makes the second time you've done so under my care.
I have things to do, places to see, people to meet.
You were delirious and having an extremely high febrile response the first time around.
That doesn't negate having things to do.
The thing you seem to have to do most when you need medical care is avoid getting medical care.
Sometimes.
Patients like you are why I sometimes consider early retirement.
I can't imagine you ever retiring.
No. But if your stay in Veneta indeed becomes a long-term assignment, I may also elect to step down from my current role so I may join you.
You don't have to do that. I already said I believe we can make it work long distance.
It is not a question if we can, but whether I wish to, or you wish to. Besides, the work in Veneta will also be important in the future. I don't dislike the idea of being a part of it.
Same. I wrapped my arm around his waist and leaned against him as we made our way back to Corsolaris. Being in Veneta long-term didn't sound too bad. And if the council still refused to let me go, maybe I could make it permanent. That would be a minor victory anyway. This wasn't a perfect ending, but it also wasn't the end. There was time to shape the future into something more similar to what I wanted. I smiled as YUU tightened his arm around my shoulders. For now, I would be satisfied with the way things were flowing. There was a lot of work to do, and I didn't mind helping with it. For now, I could shed the discontent and uncertain feelings that had been plaguing me to this point and move confidently towards what might be ahead. I reached up to lace my fingers through YUU's hand, glad I wouldn't be doing it alone. I was glad that this journey looked brighter than it had in a long time. I wasn't scared of hard work, and at least now I could be eager to see what my future held. What our future held. And that was enough. Aww. That was sweet. A sweet end indeed. I like that he's still threatening to, I could just move out there. What are they gonna do about it? And she's already plotting, like, if they're not gonna let me stay there, I'm just gonna make it happen, I'll just make it permanent. So things are not as solid looking as they were in the passionate ending, but it sounds like these two firecrackers are gonna make the future they want anyway, so that's good. There was a lot of sweet moments in there that I really enjoyed. It was a solid, sweet ending, for sure. Even though there's going to be some long distance between them, it sounds like nothing's going to keep them apart for very long, so I liked it. I hope you guys enjoyed YUU's sweet ending as well. All we have left is one bad ending, guys, and that's going to be the wrap-up for this entire series, so hopefully I will see you for that. But either way, thank you for joining me. Until next time, I will see you later.